The warning lights flashed red across the laboratory walls. Dr. Kang Taemin wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the impossible numbers on his screen. The quantum drive they had built was moving faster than anything should be able to move. "Sora, are you seeing this?" he called to his research partner across the room. Dr. Park Sora looked up from her own computer. Her face was pale. "The readings say we hit factor 15. That's impossible, Taemin. The galactic limit is factor 12. Taemin felt his heart racing. For 3 years they had been working on this project in secret on New Busan Colony. The human defense fleet had given them unlimited funding to improve their faster-than-light engines. But nobody expected them to break the universal speed limit. "Run the test again," Sora said. "There must be an error." Taemin's fingers moved quickly over the controls. The small test ship in their lab began to glow with blue energy. The quantum field around it twisted and bent in ways that hurt to look at. Then the ship vanished. 3 seconds later, it reappeared exactly where it started. The computer showed the same impossible result. "Factor 15. We need to call Admiral Lee," Sora whispered. Admiral Lee Dong-wook arrived at their lab within an hour. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. Behind him came 2 security guards and a scientist from Earth. "Show me," the Admiral said simply. Taemin ran the test again. This time he pushed the drive even harder. The test ship disappeared for 5 seconds. When it returned, the readings showed factor 17. The scientist from Earth dropped his tablet. "This violates everything we know about physics." Admiral Lee stared at the numbers for a long time. "How long have you been able to do this?" "Today was the first time," Sora answered. "We were trying to reach factor 11 when something changed. The quantum field just opened up. Have you told anyone else about this?" "Nobody," Taemin said quickly. "We called you first," Admiral Lee nodded. "Good. This information is now classified at the highest level." He turned to the guards. "Seal this lab. Nobody enters without my permission." Over the next week, more scientists arrived from across human space. They all had the same shocked expression when they saw the test results. Dr. Kim, Hyojin from Mars Colony, called it impossible. Dr. Yu, Jae-sung from Europa Station, said it broke every law of physics. But the tests kept working. On the 8th day, Sora made a discovery that changed everything. She was studying the quantum foam around their drive when she noticed something strange. "Taemin, look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "The quantum field isn't natural here." "What do you mean?" "I mean someone built this limit. The factor 12 barrier isn't a law of nature. It's artificial." Taemin felt cold. "That's impossible. The Galactic Council has always said the speed limit exists to protect us. Going faster than factor 12 tears apart space itself." "Then explain this." Sora showed him her data. "The quantum foam has patterns in it. Regular patterns. Like someone wove a net through space itself." Admiral Lee returned that afternoon with more bad news. "Our long-range sensors have detected something. The moment you broke factor 15, every council monitoring station in this sector lit up. They know what we did." "Are they coming?" Taemin asked. "Unknown, but I'm mobilizing the fleet just in case." That night, Taemin couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Sora's discovery. If the speed limit was artificial, then who built it and why? The next morning brought answers they didn't want. Dr. Choi Minna from the Xenobiology Department arrived with files that made everyone sick. "I've been studying the Council's history," she said. "Every species that ever tried to break factor 12 has disappeared. All of them." She showed them star charts. Dozens of civilizations that once sent signals across space had gone, silent right after achieving faster speeds. The Council said they destroyed themselves with dangerous technology, Admiral Lee said. "Or the Council destroyed them," Sora replied quietly. The room fell, silent. Taemin looked at their quantum drive. Such a small machine, but it had revealed a terrible truth. Humanity had been living in a cage they never knew existed. "What do we do now?" Dr. Kim asked. Admiral Lee's expression hardened. "We prepare for war. If the Council has been murdering civilizations for breaking their rules, then we need to be ready when they come for us." "But we don't even know if they're hostile," Dr. Yu protested. 57 dead civilizations say otherwise," Sora replied. Over the following days, human scientists worked around the clock to understand their breakthrough. They discovered that human brains interacted with quantum fields differently than other species. Where aliens saw solid barriers, humans saw flexible boundaries. Dr. Park Jin-ho from the Neural Research Center explained it simply. Our consciousness creates tiny quantum fluctuations. Most species' brains are too ordered, too logical. Human creativity and chaos let us slip through cracks that shouldn't exist. Taemin realized the implications. You're saying humans are naturally built to break rules? In quantum mechanics, yes. Your species doesn't think in straight lines like most aliens do. That randomness is exactly what's needed to bypass artificial limitations. Admiral Lee began preparing the human defense fleet for the worst. Ships were recalled from patrol routes. Weapons were charged. Colony worlds received warnings to prepare for evacuation. But Taemin had a different idea. We should push harder, he told Sora. If they're coming anyway, we need to learn everything we can about this technology. It's dangerous, she warned. More dangerous than waiting for the Council to arrive with weapons. They decided to try Factor 20. The test required their biggest lab ship, the Daejeon Research. Taemin and Sora watched from the control room as the ship's drive powered up. The quantum field around it began to twist more violently than before. At Factor 18, space itself started to bend visibly. At Factor 19, the ship seemed to exist in multiple places at once. At Factor 20, it simply vanished from normal space entirely. For 30 seconds, their sensors detected nothing. Then the ship returned, but it brought something back with it. What is that? Sora gasped. On their screens, they could see strange readings coming from the ship's hull. The metal itself had been changed by whatever space it had traveled through. Dr. Kim ran scans of the returned ship. The atomic structure has been altered, he reported. The materials are stronger now, denser. It's like the ship was compressed and expanded at the same time. Taemin understood. We didn't just go faster. We went somewhere else entirely. Somewhere the Council's barriers don't exist, Sora added. Admiral Lee arrived as they were analyzing the data. His face was grim. Long-range scouts report Council ships entering our space. Hundreds of them. They'll be here in 6 days. Then we need to move fast, Taemin said. If we can teach more ships to break through, we might have a chance. Or we might all die trying, the Admiral replied. But Taemin was already working on the next test. If humans could naturally break the galactic limits, then maybe they could break much more than anyone imagined. The countdown to first contact had begun, and humanity was about to discover that some cages were meant to be shattered. The crystalline spires of the Council homeworld stretched toward the stars like frozen lightning. Inside the tallest tower, alarms had been ringing for 3 days straight. Primarch Veltheran stood before the massive viewing screen, his 4 arms trembling slightly. The readings from Sector 7 Gamma were impossible to ignore. A young species had broken the quantum limit. Impossible, he whispered in the ancient Council tongue. Behind him, the emergency assembly was already gathering. Representatives from across the galaxy materialized as holographic projections. Each species looked different, but they all shared the same expression of fear. Counselor Exandra spoke first. Her crystalline body chimed softly as she moved. The readings are confirmed, Primarch. Species designation human achieved factor 15.7. The barrier held for exactly 3 seconds before failing completely. The chamber fell silent. In 50,000 years, no one had even come close to factor 13. How? Demanded Counselor Zefkor, his gas form shifting between colors. We specifically designed the limit to be unbreakable. The quantum mathematics are perfect. Veltheran turned to face the assembly. His ancient eyes had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. There is something you all need to know. Something the archives have kept secret for millennia. He gestured, and the central display changed. It now showed star charts from the deep past when the galaxy was young and chaotic. The quantum limit was not created to protect civilizations from dangerous technology, he said slowly. It was created to protect us from them. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even the oldest council members looked shocked. Exandra leaned forward. What do you mean? 50,000 years ago there was a war, the Progenitor War. Species with unlimited faster-than-light technology fought battles that tore holes in reality itself. Entire star systems were erased from existence. Galaxies were moved like game pieces. The display showed images that hurt to look at, twisted space where stars had once been, regions where time moved backward, zones where physics simply stopped working. The surviving council species made a desperate choice, Veltheran continued. We built the quantum limit to prevent any species from ever again achieving that level of power. We became the guardians of cosmic stability. But the humans, Zefkor said, how did they break through? Unknown. Our analysts are studying the data now. Counselor Texamara spoke from her water-filled environment. Primarch, with respect, the humans are barely space-capable. They have only just developed basic faster-than-light travel. How could they bypass technology that has stumped advanced civilizations for millennia? Before Veltherin could answer, new alarms began ringing. The tactical display updated with fresh horror. Second breach confirmed, announced the automated system. Human vessel achieved factor 20. Quantum barriers failing across 7 sectors. The council chamber erupted in panic. Representatives were shouting in dozens of languages. Some were already preparing to flee to distant galaxies. Silence. Veltheran's voice boomed through the chamber. The noise stopped instantly. We face a choice, he said quietly. We can repeat the mistakes of the past and allow this chaos to spread, or we can act swiftly to contain it. You mean destroy them, Exandra said. I mean eliminate the threat before it grows beyond our ability to stop. Meanwhile, in human space, Commander Yoonji Hye was experiencing the impossible firsthand. Her ship, the Incheon's Pride, was humanity's first deep space vessel equipped with the new quantum drive. The mission was simple. Scout ahead of the approaching council fleet and gather intelligence. Drive status? She asked her engineering officer. Stable at factor 18, Commander, Lieutenant Bae Soo-jin reported. The quantum field is holding perfectly, Ji-hai nodded. At this speed, they could reach the edge of council space in hours instead of months. But what they found there made her blood run cold. Commander, called her sensor operator, you need to see this. The main screen showed a star system that should have been bustling with life. According to human records, the Velkari civilization had controlled 12 planets here. They had been sending radio signals for over 1,000 years. Now the system was empty. Not abandoned, empty. The planets were still there, but they were cold and dead. No cities, no technology, no life at all. What happened here? Ji-hai whispered. Unknown, Commander, but I'm detecting similar readings from 6 other systems in this region. Ji-hai felt sick. 7 dead civilizations in one small area of space. All of them had gone silent at different times over the past few centuries. Take us deeper, she ordered. I want to see more. What they found was worse than genocide. It was erasure. System after system showed the same pattern. Thriving civilizations that had suddenly vanished without trace. Planets stripped of all technology and life but left physically intact. Commander, Bae said quietly, I've been analyzing the quantum residue in these systems. They all show the same signature. What kind of signature? Council weapons. Specifically reality disruptors. Ji-hai had heard rumors of such weapons, devices that could unmake matter at the atomic level, leaving behind perfectly clean planets ready for new colonization. How many systems? She asked. In this sector alone? 47 confirmed dead civilizations. The implications hit her like a physical blow. The Council wasn't a peaceful organization maintaining cosmic order. They were exterminators, wiping out any species that grew too advanced. Back on the Council homeworld, Fleet Marshal Korthovan was preparing the largest military operation in galactic history. How many ships? Veltherin asked. 3,000 dreadnoughts, 15,000 cruisers, and 40,000 support vessels. The Marshal replied. The humans will be completely overwhelmed. And if they develop their technology further during the approach? Impossible, Primarch. Our fastest ships will reach their space in 4 days. No species has ever advanced from Factor 15 to truly dangerous levels in such a short time. Veltherin was not convinced. The humans had already done the impossible once. Double the fleet size, he ordered, and prepare the reality disruptors. Sir? For one small system, for a species that breaks our most fundamental laws. On Earth, Fleet Marshal Han Kyung-soo was coordinating humanity's desperate defense preparations. Ships were being recalled from across human space. Orbital weapons platforms were being activated. Every space dock was working around the clock to upgrade vessels with the new quantum drives, but Han knew they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Status. Report, he demanded as his staff officers gathered in the war. Room, 68 ships now equipped with breakthrough drives, reported Admiral Choi. Another 112 being upgraded as we speak. Not enough, Han said grimly. Intelligence estimates the Council is bringing over 50,000 ships. Sir, interrupted Communications Officer Nam Ji-won, we're receiving a transmission from Commander Yoon's scout ship. The message that came through changed everything. Ji-hee's voice was tense with horror. Command, the Council has been lying to us for centuries. We've found evidence of systematic genocide. Dozens of civilizations wiped out completely. All of them had one thing in common. They were developing advanced, faster-than-light technology. Han felt his blood turn to ice. Confirmed? Confirmed, sir. The Council isn't coming to warn us about dangerous technology. They're coming to make sure we never get the chance to use it. In that moment, humanity realized they weren't just facing first contact. They were facing extinction. But they also realized something else. If the Council was this afraid of faster-than-light breakthroughs, then humanity had stumbled onto something far more powerful than anyone imagined. The countdown to war had begun, and both sides knew that only one species would survive what was coming. Dr. Lim Hae-won stared at the brain scan results with growing excitement. The neural patterns were unlike anything she had ever seen before. "This is incredible," she whispered to her assistant on Luna Base. "Look at these quantum field interactions." The brain belonged to Captain Park. Min-ho, one of the test pilots who had successfully operated the new faster-than-light drives. What Hae-won discovered changed everything humans thought they knew about themselves. "The quantum fluctuations aren't random," she explained to the research team. "Human consciousness is actually creating specific patterns in the quantum foam. Patterns that other species can't make." Dr. Shin Woo-young looked confused. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means humans are born rule breakers," Hae-won said with a grin. "Our brains work differently than alien minds. Where they see walls, we see doors." She pulled up comparative scans from the Galactic database. Alien brains showed orderly, logical patterns. Human brains showed beautiful chaos, random sparks that somehow created perfect quantum keys. "We're not smarter than them," she continued. "We're more creative, more willing to try impossible things. And in quantum mechanics, that makes all the difference." Meanwhile, Captain Kim Sang-ho was about to prove her point in the most dramatic way possible. His research vessel, the Gyeongju, was equipped with the most advanced quantum drive humans had ever built. The mission was to test the absolute limits of their new technology. "Drive power at maximum," reported engineer Lee Young-a. "Quantum field stabilizing." "Take us to factor 25, Sang-ho ordered. The ship began to glow with blue-white energy. Space around them started to bend and twist. At factor 20, they had noticed space becoming flexible. At factor 25, it became something else entirely. "Captain," called Sensor Officer Yoon Tae-ho, "we're detecting massive structures ahead. They're enormous." On the main screen, the crew of the Gyeongju saw something that should not exist. Floating in the void were machines the size of small moons. They were clearly artificial, but built with technology far beyond anything in the current galaxy. "Guardian stations," Sang-ho breathed. The legends were true. Ancient stories spoke of automated defenses left behind by the mysterious progenitors. Most people thought they were myths, but here they were, sleeping in the deep void between galaxies. "Are they active?" Young-a asked nervously. "Negative. They appear to be in standby mode." "But Captain, I'm reading power levels that could destroy entire star systems." Sang-ho realized what they had found. The progenitors hadn't disappeared. They had left guardians to watch over the galaxy. Guardians that the Council had somehow learned to avoid. Back in human space, the first battle was about to begin. Admiral Choi Min-jung stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Seoul's Defiance, watching the Council fleet approach through normal space. Thousands of alien ships stretched across the sensor display like a plague of metal locusts. "They're maintaining standard formation," reported Tactical Officer Young Da-eun. "Moving at factor 8. "Overconfident," Choi muttered. "They think they know what we're capable of." She activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi. Prepare to show them how wrong they are." 68 human ships faced over 3,000 Council vessels. It should have been a massacre. It was just not the kind the Council expected. "Quantum drives to maximum," Choi ordered. "All ships prepare for breakthrough acceleration." The human fleet vanished. To the Council ships, it looked like the humans had simply disappeared. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. Panic spread through the alien formation as commanders tried to understand what had happened. The truth was simpler than they imagined. The human ships hadn't disappeared. They had moved faster than the Council's sensors could track. At factor 30, the human fleet had become effectively invisible to normal space detection. They were moving so fast that they could attack and retreat before their enemies even knew they were there. Lieutenant Nam Woo-jin, piloting the experimental fighter Daegu Lightning, pushed his ship even harder. He wanted to test something that the scientists said was theoretically possible. Factor 40, he reported to his wing commander. Quantum field holding steady. Be careful, Woo-jin, came the reply. We don't know what happens at those speeds. Only one way to find out. He pushed his fighter to factor 50, then factor 60. At factor 75, something amazing happened. A Council dreadnought appeared ahead of him, moving in slow motion. He could see the alien crew through the transparent aluminum viewports, their movements frozen like statues. At factor 100, he tried something impossible. Instead of going around the enemy ship, he flew straight at it. His fighter phased through the dreadnought's shields like they weren't even there. He passed through the hull itself, the quantum field around his ship existing in a different layer of reality. He emerged on the other side completely unharmed. Command, he radioed excitedly. I just flew through a Council ship. Their shields can't stop us at these speeds. The implications hit the human fleet like lightning. At extreme velocities, they could become effectively untouchable. Admiral Choi immediately updated her battle plan. All ships implement phase tactics. We're going to run right through them. The Council fleet found itself fighting ghosts. Human ships would appear from nowhere, fire devastating volleys, then vanish before return fire could reach them. When the aliens tried to target them, the humans simply accelerated through their weapons. Fleet Marshal Korthvin watched his formations fall apart in confusion. How are they moving so fast? Unknown, Marshal, replied his tactical officer. Our sensors can barely track them. They appear to be exceeding factor 50 in combat. Impossible. No species has ever achieved those speeds. The humans have, sir. Korthvin felt something he hadn't experienced in 1,000 years of military service. Fear. The humans weren't just faster than expected. They were operating on a completely different level of physics. On Earth, Dr. Taemin was monitoring the battle through quantum field sensors. What he saw made him realize they had barely scratched the surface of what was possible. Sora, he called to his partner, look at these readings. The human ships in combat are creating quantum signatures I've never seen before. What kind of signatures? They're not just moving through space. They're moving through layers of space, multiple dimensions simultaneously. Dr. Park Sora studied the data with growing amazement. Are you saying they're accessing parallel realities? Not accessing. Creating. At extreme speeds, human consciousness is literally reshaping the quantum foam around them. They realized that humanity had stumbled onto something far beyond simple faster-than-light travel. They were learning to manipulate the fundamental structure of reality itself. The battle continued for 6 hours. When it ended, the Council had lost over 1,000 ships. The humans had lost 3, but the real shock came when Captain Sang-ho returned from his deep space mission. Command, he reported, we've found the source of the Council's power. Ancient Guardian stations left by the progenitors. They're inactive now, but if we can figure out how to wake them up. Admiral Lee listened to the report with growing excitement. The progenitors hadn't disappeared. They had been waiting for a species capable of breaking the artificial limits imposed on the galaxy. How many Guardian stations? He asked. Hundreds, sir. Maybe thousands. All waiting for the right activation codes. Lee realized what this meant. The Council wasn't just afraid of human speed. They were afraid that humans would find and activate the sleeping Guardians left by the galaxy's true masters. The first battle was over. But the real war was just beginning. And humanity was about to discover that they weren't just breaking the galactic limits. They were inheriting them. All ships, Lee broadcast to the fleet, prepare for deep space operations. We're going to wake up some very old friends. The Council could only watch in growing terror as humanity began to access technology that had been dormant for 50,000 years. The cage they had built around the galaxy was finally beginning to crack, and the humans were just getting started. Dr. Park Sora stepped carefully through the ruins of what had once been a great city. The archaeological team followed behind her, their equipment scanning everything in sight. But what they found on this dead world made her sick to her stomach. "The radiation signatures are wrong," said Dr. Kim Min-sik, checking his scanner. This wasn't a natural disaster or even a nuclear war. Sora knelt beside what had once been a playground. The metal swings were still there, but they had been changed at the atomic level. The metal was too pure, too clean. No natural process could do this. Reality disruptors, she whispered. The council used reality disruptors here. The evidence was everywhere once you knew what to look for. Buildings that had been unmade at the quantum level, leaving behind perfect geometric shapes. Organic matter that had been completely erased, not destroyed, but simply removed from existence. How many people lived here? Asked Dr. Yu Sung-min. Sora checked her database. 15 billion. This was one of their core worlds, and they're all just gone, not dead, erased. The council didn't just kill them, they made it so they never existed at all. Her communication device buzzed. Captain Lee Jae-hoon's voice came through clearly despite being transmitted across several star systems. "Dr. Park, we've found another site. This one has intact records." An hour later, Sora was standing in an underground archive that had somehow survived the council's weapons. The alien writing on the walls was unfamiliar, but her translation computer made quick work of it. What she read changed everything. These people knew the council was coming, she told her team. They had months to prepare. Look at this. The wall displayed what appeared to be a desperate final message from the planet's leaders. The translation was chilling. "We achieved Factor 13 travel 3 months ago. We thought it was impossible, but our scientists found a way. We sent word to the Galactic Council hoping for guidance. Instead, they sent warships. They gave us one demand: surrender our technology and accept permanent limitations or face extinction. We chose freedom. If anyone finds this message, know that we died free rather than live as slaves." Sora felt tears in her eyes. They had a choice. Give up their technology or die. "And they chose to die," Kim said quietly. "Wouldn't you?" Sora asked. "If someone told you humanity could never advance beyond a certain point, would you accept that?" The team continued exploring. Each new discovery made the Council's crimes more obvious. This wasn't the first world to make that choice. The underground archives connected to dozens of other dead civilizations. All of them had made the same discovery. All of them had refused to surrender. All of them had been erased. Meanwhile, Fleet Admiral An Sung-min was coordinating humanity's counterattack from his flagship, the Busan's Thunder. The new quantum drives had been installed on over 200 ships now, and they were ready to take the fight to the Council's territory. "Status report," he demanded. "Phase 1 complete." "Admiral," reported Captain Park Jin-kyung, "we've eliminated all Council outposts in the Outer Rim. Enemy forces are pulling back to defend their core worlds. Casualties? Minimal on our side. We're operating at speeds they simply can't match." Sung-min nodded with satisfaction. Human ships were now regularly achieving Factor 200 speeds in combat. At those velocities, they could strike deep into Council space and retreat before enemy reinforcements could respond. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected. Source engineer Bei Yuri had been working around the clock on the research station Daegu Horizon while the fleet fought battles. She was fighting the laws of physics themselves and winning. "I've done it," she announced to her team. "I've cracked the progenitor codes." Dr. Oh Hyun-woo looked skeptical. "What codes?" "The ones hidden in the quantum foam. The Council's barriers aren't just walls, they're locks, and I've found the keys." She activated her experimental device. The space around the research station began to shimmer and twist. Suddenly, the artificial limitations that had confined galactic civilization for 50,000 years simply stopped working. In a sphere of space 1 light-year across, the Factor 12 limit ceased to exist. "Any ship in that region could now achieve unlimited speeds. How is this possible?" Hyun-woo gasped. "The progenitors built backdoors into their system," Yuri explained. "They knew someone would eventually need to override the limitations. They just had to be smart enough to find the codes. And humans are that smart? Humans are that stubborn," she corrected with a grin. "We don't give up when something seems impossible. We just try harder." The news reached the Council homeworld within hours. The readings were unmistakable. Humans had not just broken the quantum limit, they had learned to control it. Primarch Veltharan stood before the emergency assembly, his forearms shaking with rage and fear. "They've accessed the progenitor archives," he announced. "Full access. They can now manipulate the quantum barriers at will." The chamber erupted in panic. Several representatives simply vanished, teleporting away to distant galaxies. Others began shouting demands for immediate evacuation. Order! Veltharan roared. We still have options. Counselor Exandra's crystalline form was flickering with stress patterns. What options? They can remove our restrictions anywhere they choose. Our entire control system is compromised. We can negotiate, suggested Counselor Zefkor desperately. Negotiate? Veltharan's laugh was bitter. They know what we've done. How many civilizations we've murdered to maintain our power. They know we're not the peaceful guardians we pretended to be. On the Human Research Station, Captain Oh Soo-jin was preparing for humanity's most ambitious mission yet. Her ship, the Busan's Revenge, had been equipped with Yuri's new quantum control system. Where are we going, Captain? Asked her navigation officer. Beyond the local group, she replied calmly. I want to see how far the Council's empire really extends. Her ship engaged its quantum drive and simply vanished from normal space. At factor 1000, the journey to the nearest galaxy took less than an hour. What she found there horrified her. Captain, called her sensor operator, I'm detecting Council installations in this galaxy too. Thousands of them. Soo-jin realized the scope of the Council's crimes. They hadn't just been controlling the Milky Way. They had been suppressing development across multiple galaxies for millions of years. How many dead civilizations? She asked quietly. Unknown, Captain. But the quantum signatures suggest millions. Soo-jin felt a cold rage building in her chest. The Council hadn't just committed genocide. They had committed it on a scale that defied comprehension. She opened a communication channel to Earth. Command. This is Captain O. The Council's crimes extend far beyond what we imagined. We're looking at systematic suppression across multiple galaxies. Billions of species may have been eliminated over the millennia. Back on Earth, President Shin Bo-ra was meeting with the Emergency Council. The weight of humanity's discovery was crushing. We're not just fighting for our own survival, she told the assembled leaders. We're fighting for every species that ever dared to dream of advancing beyond the Council's limitations. Admiral Lee spoke up. Madam President, we now have the capability to disable the quantum barriers throughout the galaxy. But doing so would free thousands of suppressed civilizations simultaneously. And that's a problem? Not a problem. An opportunity. But it would also mean the end of the current galactic order. Everything would change. Bo-ra didn't hesitate. Then let it change. The current order is built on mass murder and suppression. It deserves to end. Dr. Taemin, listening from his lab, realized what was about to happen. Humanity was preparing to liberate not just themselves, but the entire galaxy. Sora, he called to his partner. Are you ready to make history? What do you mean? We're about to free every civilization in the galaxy from artificial limitations. Some of them have been waiting 50,000 years for this moment. Sora looked at their quantum drives with new understanding. These simple machines weren't just engines. They were keys to unlock the potential of every thinking species in the galaxy. The Council is going to fight us, she said. Let them try, Taemin replied. We're not just humans anymore. We're liberators. The final phase of the war was about to begin, but this time humanity wouldn't be fighting alone. They would be fighting alongside every species that had ever dared to dream of freedom. The Council's age of tyranny was ending, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Primarch Veltharan's holographic image flickered as it appeared in President Shin Bo-ra's office on Earth. Behind him, the Council homeworld was in chaos. Ships were fleeing in all directions as ancient allies abandoned the failing regime. President Shin, he began. His forearms spread, and what humans had learned was a gesture of supplication. We must discuss terms. Bo-ra studied the alien leader with cold eyes. She had seen the evidence of his people's crimes. Entire civilizations erased from existence. Billions of lives snuffed out to maintain the Council's power. Terms? She asked quietly. You want to negotiate? The situation has become complicated. Perhaps we acted hastily in our response to human advancement. We are prepared to lift certain restrictions in exchange for... No. The single word cut through Veltharan's prepared speech like a blade. Madam President, you must understand the delicate balance we have maintained for... I understand perfectly. Bo-ra interrupted. You've been murdering anyone who threatened your control for 50,000 years. That ends now. She gestured to Admiral Lee, who activated a holographic display showing the terms humanity had prepared. Complete cessation of all quantum limitations throughout the galaxy. Full reparations to be paid to the surviving relatives of destroyed civilizations. Immediate surrender of all reality disruptor weapons. And criminal trials for all council members involved in genocide. Velthoran's translator made a sound like grinding metal. Impossible. You are asking us to dismantle everything we have built. We're asking you to stop being mass murderers, Bo-Ra replied. If that requires dismantling your empire, then so be it. And if we refuse? Bo-Ra's expression didn't change. Then Dr. Kang will activate Project Genesis. Every artificial limitation in the galaxy will be permanently removed. Every suppressed civilization will regain their full technological potential. And your people will face justice from thousands of species instead of just one. The transmission ended abruptly as Velthoran cut the connection. In his laboratory, Dr. Kang Tae-min was making final preparations for humanity's ultimate weapon. Project Genesis wasn't a bomb or a fleet of ships. It was something far more powerful, the complete liberation of galactic civilization. Are you sure this will work? Asked Dr. Park So-ra, checking the massive quantum resonance array one last time. The math is solid, Tae-min replied. When we activate this, every quantum barrier in the galaxy will collapse simultaneously. Every artificial limitation will cease to exist, and every civilization will suddenly have access to technology they've been dreaming about for millennia. Tae-min nodded. The Council's greatest fear. A galaxy full of free species, all advancing at their own pace. The array filled an entire asteroid that had been hollowed out for the project. Human engineers had worked around the clock to build something that could affect quantum fields across hundreds of thousands of light years. Signal from Earth, announced engineer Lim Hae-won. President Bo-Ra has given the authorization. Project Genesis is a go. Tae-min placed his hand on the activation control. With this single gesture, he would free every thinking species in the galaxy from artificial constraints. For every civilization that dreamed of the stars, he said quietly, and pressed the button. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Across the galaxy, ancient quantum barriers simply vanished. On thousands of worlds, civilizations that had been locked at primitive technology levels suddenly found their most advanced theories working perfectly. Species that had spent centuries trying to break Factor 12 achieved Factor 100 in their first attempts. The Kethalari, confined to their home system for 1,000 years, reached the stars within hours. The Mordane Collective, whose hive mind had been fragmented by quantum interference, suddenly reconnected across interstellar distances. The crystal-based Shentar discovered they could manipulate matter at the atomic level, reshaping entire worlds in minutes. Everywhere, the artificial ceiling that had kept galactic civilization in check was gone. Admiral Lee Dong-wook watched the readings from his flagship as reality rewrote itself across known space. "Report," he demanded. "Quantum cascade is complete, Admiral," reported his science officer. "Every artificial barrier in the galaxy has been neutralized. We're detecting massive technological advancement on over 10,000 worlds." "And the Council forces?" "In full retreat, sir. Their ships are fleeing toward the galactic rim." Lee allowed himself a small smile. The Council's fleets had been designed to fight primitive civilizations locked below Factor 12. They were completely unprepared for a galaxy full of species with unlimited technological potential. On the Council homeworld, the situation was beyond desperate. Counselor Ixandra materialized in the evacuation chamber, her crystalline form crackling with panic patterns. The outer colonies are in revolt. The Zefkor hegemony has declared independence. The Mortesh Empire is demanding war crimes trials. Velthoran looked around at what remained of his government. Half the council had already fled to distant galaxies. The others were preparing to follow. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Unknown, Primarch, but the freed civilizations are advancing rapidly. Some have already achieved technologies beyond our understanding." As if summoned by her words, alarms began ringing throughout the complex. "Massive quantum signature detected," announced the automated systems. "Unknown vessel approaching at Factor 3000. Factor 3000. Even the ancient progenitors had rarely achieved such speeds. The ship that materialized above the Council homeworld was unlike anything they had ever seen. It seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its hull shifting between solid matter and pure energy. From this impossible vessel came a transmission that reached every Council member simultaneously. "This is Admiral Lee Dong-wook of the Human Liberation Fleet. By the authority of the freed galactic civilizations, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient life. Surrender now and you will receive fair trials. Resist and face the judgment of every species you have wronged." Veltharin looked at his remaining counselors. Around them, the homeworld's defenses were powering down. Even their most loyal guards were refusing orders. "It's over," he said simply. But the real shock was still to come. Captain Park Jin-woo led the boarding party that secured the Council's central archives. What they found there revealed the full scope of the Council's crimes. "Captain," called Data Specialist Yoon Mi-young, "you need to see this. The archives go back 2 million years. The records were staggering. Civilization after civilization destroyed the moment they showed signs of true advancement. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands of species wiped from existence." "How many?" Jin-woo asked quietly. "Conservative estimate? Over 50,000 extinct civilizations. But Captain, that's not the worst part." "What could be worse?" "They kept samples, genetic templates of every species they destroyed. They could have brought them back anytime they wanted." Jin-woo felt sick. The Council hadn't just committed genocide. They had committed reversible genocide, keeping their victims in storage while pretending they were gone forever. "Send word to Dr. Lim," he ordered. "Tell her we're going to need a very large resurrection laboratory." 3 months later, Dr. Lim Hae-won stood in the center of the most ambitious scientific project in galactic history. Around her, thousands of biological regeneration chambers hummed with activity. "Status report?" she asked her assistant. "First wave complete, Dr. Bae," Kim replied. "We've successfully restored 50 species to biological viability. They're adapting to their new environments ahead of schedule." Hai-wan watched through the viewing windows as members of extinct civilizations took their first steps in millions of years. The Vectal, whose crystalline forms sang in harmonious frequencies. The flowing Yith-Mora, whose gaseous bodies danced with joy. The ancient Korth-Vani, whose telepathic abilities had once challenged the early Council. "They all want to help," Kim continued. "Every restored species has volunteered to assist with the next wave of resurrections." And the living civilizations? Adapting rapidly to their new freedom. The Zefkor have established colonies in 3 galaxies. The Shentar are teaching matter manipulation to anyone interested. The Crystal Singers are composing symphonies that restructure quantum fields. Hae-won smiled. This was what the galaxy was supposed to be like. Not a sterile empire ruled by fear, but a community of diverse civilizations sharing knowledge and wonder. Captain Kim Sang-ho returned from the most distant mission yet undertaken. His ship, now capable of factor 10,000 travel, had explored beyond the known galaxy clusters. "Report," Admiral Lee requested. "The Council's reach was even wider than we thought," Sang-ho said. "I found evidence of their suppression operations in over a dozen galaxies. But Admiral, I also found something else." "What?" "Active progenitor installations. Not just the Guardian stations we've been activating, but actual living progenitors." The bridge fell silent. "Living?" Lee asked. "In stasis, but alive. And sir, they've been waiting for someone to break the Council's control." Lee realized what this meant. The original builders of galactic civilization weren't extinct. They had been waiting for a species capable of liberating the galaxy from the artificial constraints their own technology had created. 6 months after Project Genesis, President Shinbora stood before the First Galactic Assembly of Free Civilizations.